in the
Beachwood East
ocean.
and the Pavilion, like there
That's
are
true,
sections,
yeah,
but a
right.
Yeah.
whole bunch of Isle of Palms,
Yeah.
if you go from the north
Yeah.
end to
Yeah,
the
you're
south
right.
end, a whole bunch of Isle of
So,
Palms is not like
But
that.
the concept of a minimum healthy beach profile, and you can call it whether it's volume based or linear foot based, is you take that house line and then you're adding multiple rows of dunes to set the minimum with that condition.
Well, the dunes are there now.
Yeah, so why
For
would
the
you
most
start
part.
70? I mean, I don't understand.
So I guess I would just interject by saying, we are trying to cobble together money to do what we can do to make the structure safe, and the ends are not meeting currently.
We need to
I
find
think-
more money and do it now. That's not about, I don't
But
buy that as a
If you don't mind, if I just finish, I think in this group's task is identify money sources.
Okay.
Get the money kind of rolling in at the appropriate cadence so we have enough money. But otherwise, I think we are putting the cart before the horse if we say, hey, we would like to put, we're planning to put 1.5 million cubic yards.
Mhm.
We would like to put 40 million cubic yards. We clearly can't afford that.
Douglas,
If we-
with all due respect, at the last beach committee grouping, not this one, the one before, we did come up with a bunch of recommendations for funding.
Mhm.
And we made them to the city over a year ago.
Yeah.
And not a single one has been implemented. None. So I understand what you're saying about we need money, but
But the cheapest sand,
if we had started it then, we would have had much more money, and some of them
Yeah.
might have been very viable, significant contributions.
So
and-
until the money is coming in.
Correct.
We have a problem. So
I understand. But we need to find,
It-
we'll get to the money, I guess.
It appears to
next.
me that at the moment, we have three different beach scenarios in Isle of Palms. One, which is luckily the majority of our 7 Mile beach, where we have so much sand, it doesn't really matter. Nobody's any worried about it. That's pretty much in the middle of the island. And then we have the north and we have the south. In the north, we have already houses in the water. So we need to define a target that's a little bit more modest, and that probably measuring from the house is the right strategy at that point. Versus in the south, we still have some dunes left, and measuring from the dunes.
Can I
Is that
just ask
agreeable?
a question?
I agree.
So the north end of the island is, I think, I don't know, if I'm trying to put myself in a position of living at Beachwood East. And
So-
what would I do? Is that sustainable to even have a house there? Did you hear what I'm saying? I mean, I know that, people spent money and invested in that and all that, and I don't know. I have to ask the
Well,
question, what
they
do
built it 40
those
years
people?
ago when there was a much bigger beach.
But the houses were built, so I looked at when those homes were last sold. And they may have been built 40 years ago, but many of them were purchased in the 2000s.
Some of
I
them were
can tell you,
purchased.
my
in
family's
the-
house was built in the 80s and is still owned by my family on Beachwood East.
Yeah, no,
So-
I know it's not all of them. I'm just saying that I'm trying to learn what is sustainable, as far as up there, especially since the water's under those homes.
But Alice, where are you going with this? Would you then say those people, good luck?
I say no. I say we ask them. I say, do you want to put up with this, or would you like to somehow get out of your home and buy them out? I don't
can assure
know.
you, none of them want to get out of their home.
Really?
They want to go back to the way they were living with the beach and a healthy beach in front of their homes.
That's
why
my
they moved
question.
there.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
So-
Like, what are those residents thinking
The
about
other thing
that
about Beachwood
situation?
East too is you can't walk up and down the beach there.
Right.
Like,
Oh, I know.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, my thing about the dry sand beach for people to
Well, I've been in one of
enjoy, so
those
they would
homes
need
as a guest, but,
something
yeah.
to be done
Yeah, no.
anyway to keep the.
No, but that was my question. It's like, for the people living there, what do they want to do? They
Well,
wanna stay
I'm
or
for
not?
one, not
Yeah.
willing to give up yet.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we still have means
Okay.
in our hands to protect these homes and to build the beach, maybe not 200 feet in front of them, but to some degree that these houses are safe for the next 10 years.
I'd like to speak back to Dan's point just real quick on, with the minimum healthy beach. Honestly, that's a pretty easy offset to say that, if we have the value at 380 cubic yards per foot right now. If the committee decides we want something more ambitious than that, that's a one number offset that's how we calculate our deficit volume. So you add that in your baseline, you're still dealing with the erosion rate on top of that on what we're going to experience over the next several years. At Beechwood East, we've said that, a small growing field within that area is a way to slow down the erosion rates right in there. And that's what you're doing to protect, prolong your project. And this one, even the situation up at the east end of Isle of Palms is the most dynamic developed beach in the state. We've put groins in at Devedoo, Hunting Island, extended them at Follies and Edisto and Folly Beach County Park. We built the terminal groin. They are very useful in slowing down these chronic erosion rates. They come with a lot of environmental and regulatory baggage, but that's not something that can be overcome or can't be overcome. And I think there's ways to employ those where they're not, you don't build a 600-foot long beach and then build them out on top of that. You put them in a way that when the beach does go through these erosional cycles, they may become exposed, do their job. But if you can, and Chris mentioned this earlier, if you can eliminate those handful of properties, we have Ocean Club, we have a dozen or so houses around Beechwood East. Those are the triggers at the east end that have driven the projects. We're seeing a lot of accretion going through there now, and if we would have been able to maintain the beach for the last 2 years there, over the next 2 years, they're going to have a much healthier beach if we didn't do nourishment over that time, and we could have extended the project life 3 or 4 years potentially. Those are the kind of things that you're looking at on, agree with Chris completely, is how do you maintain it to where it's an economically feasible management strategy, to maintain that minimum healthy beach. Again, it should be a guideline because as you get around the inlets, those numbers get very skewed. You can have a huge influx of sand. Right now, at the very southern tip of the island, we saw an accretion over the past 6 months of 75 cubic yards per feet. That's basically a nourishment project for a lot of communities, is 75 yards per foot. But all that sand is still in the intertidal beach right now. It's not gained any in the dry sand right now.
Right.
It's coming, but that's where the width doesn't always match with the volume, and why we need to look at both of them when you're kind of planning strategies.
So what is you can calculate easily. I tried it with AI. I don't know if I was successful, but if we take that 380 cubic yards per foot and we say, what does that mean in terms of the width of a beach?
Mhm.
I just guesstimated if I throw in the depth of 13, I came up with 78. I don't know.
And then you
What
took
is
the
the
square
answer?
root of that and divided it
Well,
by
AI
2.
did. I didn't.
I was going to say.
What is the
380 is what in feet of dry sand at high tide.
Yeah.
That's what John wants to know.
Yes.
Please.
That's
yes.
We all want to
That's what
know.
I
So-
want.
I mean,
We all
I
wanna
was
know
hoping
that.
for 400.
Well, and so using the Brun rule, if say your whole profile depth is 27 feet from your dry sand elevation at about a 6 or 7, if sand stops moving at a minus 20 feet, then in theory, 1 cubic yard equals 1 foot of width. Doesn't always work out like that. And in shallower areas, you actually get a little more width per cubic yard. So you, in theory, would have about 350 or so feet of dry sand. That includes dune all the way back to the houses. So if we,
Oh, so
Yeah, it has
that's
to
include
include
the
That's
houses.
crazy.
Yeah.
but
There's
yeah,
no way there's that much in
No.
front for the tourism and recreation and all that.
Only in the middle of the island is that even remotely.
yeah, and that's again, I say in theory doesn't always match up with reality. But if we were to look at kind of the structure line there at 9th Avenue out to where the dry sand is, well, there's only about 120 feet. Dry sand actually.
This is 8th Avenue where you are
And
right
that's from the
now.
house.
That's at 9th
Nice.
Avenue. Yeah,
That's
about
from the
200
From the house.
about
That's-
200 feet from the houses or so there in that case. So
Right now, a
That's
tourist can't use a lot of that because it's private property right now. And
Oh, that's right.
somebody
yeah.
would call the police and say, could you please get off my private property?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All the vegetation.
Count that
Yeah.
Vegetated
as
structures.
So the difficulty in though how you would manage that is if we drew the line right on the crest of the dune today and said this is what we're going to try to maintain,
Mhm.
as you go to fund and build support for this, some people are going to have nothing in front of their houses, but are being on paper treated equally as those who may have 200 feet of dunes. in front of their houses. So
That's
you have to
okay.
justify, as long as you can
Yeah.
find the funding and justification to say, we're going to keep putting the same amount of sand in front of those healthy,
Yeah.
healthier houses as the erosional ones.
Well, because in 4 years, the positions might be switched. So I think anyone who had a beachfront property would feel happy making sure the neighbors were well treated.
I've never heard town council say, we only have X amount of money. So design a renourishment plan around that budget. So I think what we should do is calculate what would it look like if we defined it from the homes, where the homes are on the wrong side of the line. And when they're not on the wrong side of the line, from the baseline, and just say, what would it look like to have a healthy beach from the baseline? And what is that volume? And how much money is that? And then make informed decisions and choices instead of just assuming that we want to retreat.
Take money out of the equation.
Right, take money
Yeah,
out of the
that's
equation,
a good
give us
idea.
the
I like that.
information
And then
and
from
let
there, then
us
from there, you can back
decide.
down
Yeah.
to what works.
So you still have to come up with a minimum healthy beach volume seaward of the new line. So
Right.
if we draw our baseline at the current dune line, you're saying the minimum healthy beach needs to be more than that.
I'm not saying at the current dune line, I'm saying at the baseline.
When you say
Yeah.
baseline,
It's
you're
not the state's baseline.
The legal
jurisdiction
line,
BCM's baseline.
yeah,
and-
yeah.
But that changes every 10 years. So
Right,
are we
that's
just going to read?
Well,
if
you
under
start
hold
it
the
now,
line,
yeah.
under hold the line, we're trying to hold the
We
line,
only have
right?
6 years.
Well, yeah, but in 2 more years, it's going to change.
You can't
Well,
ever,
you
you
have to-
can't ever accrete.
Right, but
And
you
if
can
you do,
retreat.
if you do a renourishment, right, like
Yeah.
the way like Hilton Head does it and North Carolina does it, is they have their baseline and then they put 200 feet of dry sand beach and then the erosion rate is from there on out. So if I'm going to have an 8-year project, they figure out what the erosion rate is. So at the end of the 8 years, when everything's eroded, hopefully you've calculated it all perfectly and nature cooperated and you end up with 200 feet of dry sand beach at the end of the 8 years.
Right.
So it's not a retreat strategy. It's a hold the line strategy, and they come up with funding to figure that out. I don't know if we're talking about 60 million, 30 million. Like, I don't know what it would take because we don't have the data. We're under a retreat strategy right now, and I want to know what it would be if we held the line.
Okay, so we can determine if 200 feet past the baseline is the minimum healthy beach parameter, then that's easy for us to calculate what that volume would be to get to that point.
Okay.
I think that
sounds
would be
good. Yeah,
interesting for
yeah.
us. And the only area where that would really change is the south end between 0 and 6, right? Or 0 and 8.
Yes.
Yeah, there are a couple of homes that are.
Everywhere else,
It'd probably go all the way up.
Well, it would
I guess.
go, because the baseline along the center part of the island is going to be set at the primary dune location right now. So adding 200 feet in front of that will be likely a pretty significant
Wait,
volume.
why would we add? They already have 200 feet past baseline, don't they?
I'd have to check to see where the baselines exactly are right now, but if it is at the primary dune, the setback line is going to be,
Wait,
Yeah, it's
the baseline can't go. The baselines can't go seaward.
they've been there for, or it would have been where they were in 2018, the last go around. I can pull it up here real quick. You got it pulled up? Okay. Yeah, so they actually are, in some areas, kind of a north of 14th to probably 20th or so. It's right at the primary dune. As you go further north from there, it does start to retreat landward into the dune a decent amount, so that it wouldn't apply
I wonder part of that, because it, yeah.
in that area, but between like 14th and 20th.
so
or
the mission you were on right now, Stephen, is that in Beechwood East, you were intending to put the 380 yards in front of those homes to create a certain amount of dry beach, a
Correct.
massive amount of sand that is currently missing. And at the south end, you were not intending to do that. You were measuring from the structure. So therefore, you were not intending to put a lot of sand between the dunes and the waterline.
The way the project's formulated is the first step is to get everybody to that minimum healthy volume. So the area along Beechwood and the south end would get at least to 380 yards per foot. Then on top of that, we add in the advanced fill that would be an amount of sand that would cover 8 years worth of the erosion rates that we have seen over the past several years. So that by the end of 8 years, again, and on paper, you're getting back to that minimum healthy volume, and we're never getting beyond that again.
So the only difference is that from what Wendy is talking about is that you're not measuring the 380 from the beginning of the dune, you're measuring it from the beginning of the house.
We're doing that at all areas right now. Yes.
Well, that makes sense to me if you're on the wrong side of the baseline, because you want to protect homes. So that seems
Yeah.
like,
And
that seems like a no-brainer. Like, I feel like really comfortable with that.
Guys, I
just
apologize.
doesn't-
I've got a flight I've got to hop on to, but thank you all.
Thank you, Dan.
We'll
Thanks,
update
Dan.
you.
Please.
we can show you what that number is and how it changes the current
I
volume
think that would be helpful.
situation.
Yeah.
So did we answer so we haven't really answered the question of if you were to take it from, I'm still trying to figure out the 380 of how many feet of dry sand, because I know it's now including backyards. So I'm just trying to figure out,
It was over
We'll just-
300 feet.
we'll just, yeah, but we'll
Yeah,
just,
well, he said 1 cubic to 1
1 to
foot
1,
linear,
right.
so it was 1 to 1, and that may be if you go from the house, it may be
Right.
that long in some places.
so like, right, and is that like when you define that, can that be defined to get you through, like we have a 6.3 or 4 foot tide coming like the end of April. So right now we're at like a 5.3 tide yesterday. So using, I go out and I look and I say,
Look.
okay, well, there was 48 feet there and there was 68 feet there. But I don't know what that's going to be.
Minus 20 at Beechwood East.
Well, you have to also put a dune back because you don't have,
have any-
minus
you don't
20. You're
have
starting from
anything.
minus 20.
Yeah.
which is-
Yeah,
you don't have a
starting
dune, so you need room to put a dune back too.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have, another foot of ocean coming at you by the end of April. So I feel like it would be helpful to define it too, based on whatever our highest tide is to get you through the seasons. You know what I mean?
Yes. So when you're drawing contours on ever-changing beach profiles, you have to pick a contour that is kind of a consistent spot on the beach. So we can either use somewhere on the dune, like on the face of the dune, because that's pretty consistent. As you get to the dry sand, minor changes can make a very significant lateral change. Or we use like an elevation that's just below the high tide swash line, like a plus 4.5 feet or so. That kind of gives you an indication of where the water line normally comes to. So we have that data that we can show for up and down the beach.
So I want to make sure I understood you. So you basically can calculate what the high tide would be. Is that what I heard?
Well, we
Um,
know it can be 8 feet.
yeah.
We know it can go much higher than
In the
6.
king tide. I know we should
The
probably
king
be
tide.
looking at
So
it
that's
through
what I'm
the-
wondering, would we just go with the highest?
Yeah, I mean,
Type
usually
of
you'd
tide.
use, the best real world scenario is just the toe of the dune elevation, because that's where spring tides typically reach, is the toe of the dune. And that's why you don't have vegetation growing out further, because the saltwater kills it.
Right, yeah, the king tide kills it. There you go.
Well, then you're wiping out your dune at a king tide. So you're
Oh, it
guaranteeing.
just stops at the edge of the dune, kills the vegetation.
The thing that I'm sensitive to is the negative press that we're getting on, social media. Tourists are saying, I booked last year and I didn't have anywhere to sit at high tide. So can somebody please send me a picture of the beach at high tide? Because I don't know if I want to book again. And, we are so dependent upon day trippers and tourists coming down and vacationing here. And I'm just really worried that we're going to blow it.
Well, the berm width up at the east end is going to approach 600 feet in some areas. The minimum berm width is probably 250 feet of dry sand. We'll have a dune on the back of that. Down at the south end, under the base quantity scenario, we're looking at adding probably 150 feet of dry sand along the entire stretch, more in the areas that are most eroded.
I was just concerned because I saw in your note that we are in excess on the south end, and I'm just looking at the beach going,
Well,
I don't see the excess.
Well, we try to caveat it that, the erosion issues on the island can be very, very localized. to the point where right now at the south end, essentially it's south of the Second Avenue is where we have any erosion issues. There's close to 100 feet of dry sand along the entire beach north of Second Avenue to the pier. Now, if we have a king tide, that will shrink quickly.
I'm gonna pull up my picture. This is what 7th Avenue looked like October,
Yes.
Yeah.
after you measured in August. This has gone all the way up to 8th Avenue.
So there is
I'm
was
just-
a erosional escarpment at 7th Avenue that has still persisted. The course between August and February, we were able to account for gains of over 150,000 cubic yards
But
that
that
were on
would
the
be
south end.
150 feet.
And
right?
we're seeing dry sand of almost 100 feet along most of that whole south end.
But I don't see that. That's my concern.
I'm happy we can go out there after the meeting and see.
John and I
if-
went
We measured
yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah,
We went
I
out
mean,
on a tape measure yesterday and we're
Okay.
like, where is that 100 feet?
yeah, especially down in Second and First.
Right, second and first,
That
like I said,
area.
that's still
That's
not the
right.
area,
That
but
is the
we
yes.
walked, I paced off 100 feet at Third Avenue a few weeks ago.
I'd say
Again-
3rd Avenue,
Right,
we
yeah,
saw
and-
that.
and
That's
again,
the only
there's-
avenue where we saw it. Like at 6th Avenue, it was like, 50, under 50. But maybe you're counting the dunes too. Like maybe we're measuring it differently.
Mhm.
No, I mean, we're talking about the dry sand. Now, again, 6th and 7th are where there was a erosional arc where a ridge and runnel system has been kind of moving through that area. And as that ridge and runnel, as the ridge kind of gets up higher on the beach, it erodes part of the dune. And we've been kind of tracking those along the south end for the past couple of years. You see this wave of kind of a dune erosion work from north to south. The Corps placed a lot of sand there at 6th. That's the low tide beach goes out a long, long way. So we know that sand is working its way up the beach. I do not disagree with you at all that area does have a narrower dry sand area, but I think it's rapidly growing.
I'm concerned that I haven't seen the depth. I tried to look at the depth on the chart you sent in the monitoring report, but I can't see it. They're a little blurry, so we need to fix that. But I don't know what the depth is. So that's my concern, is that we've lost a bunch of depth. And it's going to come
Relative
roaring
to
in.
Like-
where?
Like the houses seem to be vulnerable too in that area. There's not, like much
Well, at least the
between the
pools
house
are.
and the
You're talking in one.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, they're
even
close, very close there.
it-
Yeah.
it's getting,
There's
It's getting
there's
close.
no dry sand at a 5.3 foot tide for those homes.
Right.
So we're nowhere near what a minimum healthy beach would be. I had a question on that too. Like I thought, I wish Dan was here, that the ad hoc beach committee defined, I thought on the inlet erosional zone, which is basically like 6th through Breach Inlet, that it was going to be like 600 instead of the 380. It seems
Yeah,
like we're
it-
now applying the 380. to
We're
that
not,
erosion.
it's there. So on
I
this
wasn't sure
chart,
the way this was written.
the-
It sounded like you applied the 9th Avenue standard to that area.
that was kind of the starting point. Up at Breach Inlet, the red line is the minimum healthy volume that we apply. So it goes up to 600 feet
Mhm.
there. Again, that's a very localized circumstance because of the delta of Breach Inlet, the way it attaches to the south end of Isle of Palms. We have to include a lot of that underwater
So
sand.
how far up does that go, the 600 that should be applied? To what avenue is the
Um,
Are
recommendation?
we starting with Breach Inlet here?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just up to about Second Avenue or so.
To
As
Second
you get,
Avenue?
and then it trends down till you get closer to Third Avenue. And then north of there, it's at 400 at around Third Avenue or so. And then it drops to 380 across the island.
Okay, so around
And then-
3rd Avenue.
And actually, as you
is-
get around the eastern end of Wild Dunes, we drop it a little further because of the steepness of that beach. It takes less sand to maintain that same width.
Okay. So it sounded like in the
Huh.
email that you used, I wasn't sure if you were applying that red line
are.
slope to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It appears to me that the sentiment of this committee is that we shouldn't treat all of Isle of Palms the same. That the situation we have at Beachwood East is not desirable, and so we don't want to have the south end getting into that same position. But at the same time, it's not realistic to reestablish the situation at Beechwood East or the Ocean Club to the levels that would be desirable. So therefore, I think it would be best to apply these rules of minimum healthy beach in the affected areas in the north end from the structure, whereas in the south end we are defining it from the dune baseline.
Okay,
Baseline, please.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I say we try
That's
and
I
hold the
think
line.
where the majority or all of this committee sits.
Well, we can do that. I'll just say that, it's, you're basing that condition off of, a line in the sand that was determined by BCM, off of a condition that existed, 10 years ago. So it's very easy to do these numbers, but if you try to maintain a wider system there, that's just going to involve, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all, it's just a bigger project, a bigger effort to maintain that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're,
Okay.
especially at the south end of the island where you have this reach inlet.
Look
Yeah.
where we are now. I mean, the houses are falling into the ocean, so we have to do something different. We have to be more aggressive.
I think we realize that, and the affordability is obviously a completely different topic, and we need to deal with that, and whether we can afford it or what other measures the city can do. But defining this would be helpful for this committee, what that beach volume of sand would be.
Okay, and the standard's 200 feet is what you're looking for,
Okay, yeah.
seaward of that baseline as being the minimum.
Yeah.
And then we'll apply the erosion rate on top of that.
And just
South
for-
end, are we saying south of 10th Avenue or south of 21st Avenue? I guess you're going to have it kind of everywhere north of 21st, right, naturally.
I thought we were talking
The whole
about
beach. The whole island.
Why
one.
would we not apply that everywhere?
Yeah.
Does it trigger
7 miles.
renourishment
Yeah.
beyond what we're looking at now? If you looked at it that way? It doesn't
We
seem
would have
like
to
it based
see.
on,
Yeah.
like Reach 4 has groins. So we say luckily they have a lot of sand, but maybe luckily they have sand because they have groins. But they have a ton of volume, so I can't imagine that's an issue there. I'm looking at Reach 3 and I'm looking at the baseline compared to Reach 3, and it looks like it would not trigger anything there either.
I'm thinking it would
Probably
trigger
just north of the pier.
21st. Instead
Well,
of where
definitely.
we're looking at 10th now, it could potentially move renourishment up to 21st. That
Really?
area.
Well, yeah.
Seascape. Here. What's
I wish there
what's
were.
the
Yeah.
at
Right,
the
okay.
I can't
neighborhood?
Well, in the
tell-
commercial
I can't tell
area,
streets when I
the,
look at this, so it's hard for me to.
That's the
I
S
look
curve
for
at
the
21st.
connector and then I
Condominium, beachfront
kind of go from
condominiums,
there.
that
Start
area.
counting.
Yeah,
I'm not
start
sure.
counting. Yeah.
Beach goes, when you start looking at, that's been a pretty stable baseline, but I don't know how that would affect moving.
Yeah, I don't think there's any action required there.
Well, yeah, but that's, but if
All
you're,
the action is required south of 8th Avenue.
So I've pulled it up. It's not showing right there. Josh, can you
Josh,
switch me
we
back?
can- yeah.
Oh, yeah, good. Here we go.
So this is the area just north of the pier in the county park. So the red line is the baseline there. Should have a measure tool. So if we were to look at this particular area, no, we're in meters here, but it's about 66 meters. So we would be building dry sand out to about here.
Okay.
There is some dry sand out there now. That area's actually been gaining a lot the past
Can you
year.
change it to feet so I don't have to use my brain?
Come on.
Okay.
Dear AI, help me.
So
Yeah.
we would be adding that distance, which is probably 40 feet or so, to
Well, it would be
50 feet.
nice, but seems excessive right now.
And that would be the
Considering
minimum.
the needs on the either ends,
But,
the other
but that
ends.
could also be then our next step when we look at the budget situation, say,
Mhm.
can we afford it this time around?
Right.
Should we run another scenario that's
So you could establish,
150 or I don't know.
I mean, rather than using the baseline, and I understand there are some property rights and things going on with that the criteria, but you could say, all right, let's start at 100 feet from the structures or something like that. Because at the end of the day,
Structures.
it's your worst case scenario is you're impacting structures.
Well, the homes
No,
are.
I don't want to go. Let's
homes
forget
are-
about the structures. We need the beach for,
Well, the problem in
Recreation
South Carolina is as soon as you build all that out, it becomes private property to the
It
owners
does
of
not,
those.
it cannot go past the current.
It goes to the
baseline.
high tide line.
We have to pay taxes on it, but we can't use that for anything.
Well, no, but that's the ownership of the property, so it's not public property.
It is.
No, it's not, beyond the vegetation
Sure,
is not,
the people are there every day.
only because nobody complains about it.
Well,
But
why would they?
legally,
It's
from
the
a legal
beach.
standpoint,
Well,
it is private
it's
property.
both private property, but it's also under the jurisdiction of the state.
Right.
And then once you get past the mean high tide line, which is its own gray area, then it becomes
Right.
state trust area. So, and
But again, it's, if you're just shifting that line further out, you're really not making accessible public beach.
You are because
course
you
You're
can
just
never-
moving the
you
beach. You're
can-
not making,
you
it's still
can't-
there.
That line is never, the baseline is never, ever, ever, based on law, going to go towards the ocean, no matter how much sand we put out there for tourists. That
That just
line
means
that
you
is,
can't,
that's-
build on it. Doesn't mean you don't own it and you don't control it.
I can't control it. There's nothing that a homeowner could do without a permit from
Right.
DES, from the 20-foot setback line to the mean.
But
high
it's still
tide line.
private property.
It's private property, but
So it's not,
There's
it's not,
nothing that
it's
the-
not accessible to the public.
it's 100% accessible to the
Yeah.
public.
No,
That's
the
where
public
everyone
can't go into
sits.
the dunes. We don't allow it.
because
So if you just move the
ruin
dunes, you
I'm
just
sorry,
move the
because
public.
It's because you ruin the vegetation. That's why they have that. Well, not because of private property. or
Well, it's actually
whatever.
both.
It's-
This
Well,
person
I
right
think it's
here
mostly
is
about
on private
vegetation.
property.
No,
Yeah.
well, if they're at the high tide line, goes
But I don't
back
think
to.
that's an
So-
issue. I
if
think
they're-
that-
That's a
that
different issue,
particular-
but again,
Yeah.
Do you not see
Shifting-
where people
shifting the-
sit? They sit on dry sand. They don't want to sit. in
but
wet
shifting
sand.
that further from the house to closer to the house doesn't change the availability of that property, of that beach area.
I don't
That's-
To-
understand.
to
I don't-
David's-
that's
That's not what we're
I
talking
don't
about,
understand.
though.
If you add more sand, there's going to be more beach, period.
So
No,
the-
because it's going to be it's going to end up being vegetation. It's just
No,
going
it's
to move the
not.
beach
This-
out.
this-
People are
Vegetation's not
people are
going
going
to
to be
come.
sitting on it.
You saw what look. What
Could-
do you think,
Determined by the
vegetation's
high
gonna come
tide
in like
anyway.
a year and grow
Yes.
over?
Doug is trying to-
Come
Yeah,
on.
if you all could look at this graphic,
Yeah.
Joshua, go back to, if the beach were to erode in this area, that white stripe of dry sand beach would move closer to the house, but it would be the same width of
Dry sand.
dry sand. So that band moves, and it does, to Wendy's point, it gets in, that owner would now have property that would be usable by the public under the public trust doctrine, but the recreational beach would be generally the same width. It's just closer to the house, is David's point. I disagree with that just a little bit. If this area's been accreting for years and years, that's why you have a wide dry sand, is because the excess that's been coming in. If it transitions into an erosional cycle, that dry sand area will narrow. And
So it would look more like,
it looked more like, 6th Avenue, anywhere north of the pier up to about 53rd, all that has been gaining substantial amounts of sand really since 2008 during the first project. I mean, it's been an accretional for decades.
I don't believe we need to do anything north of the pier. So maybe the 200 yards is not the right, 200 feet is not the
Not the
right
right
number.
number.
Yeah, should we
Mhm.
choose a different?
Maybe the
Scenario?
number is 150 feet or 100 feet, but
Well-
that beach looks fine there.
Yeah.
So could,
North of the pier? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Beachwood East is north of the pier.
Wow.
We're not talking that far.
Oh,
north.
I'm sorry.
41st, he's talking about the middle of the island.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
apologize.
Can I ask, does anybody know what that Beechwood East area looked like? Did it have dunes and plenty of sand at one point?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
tons,
yeah. When they
tons.
did the book
Yeah.
nourishment in 2018.
Oh, that
Beechwood-
recently?
Beechwood
Yeah.
East
Oh, yeah.
was your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
So the state knew that was erosional, and that is the location of the landmark Lucas case. Went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The state tried to stop those lots from ever being developed. They recognized it was
Right.
erosional, tried to keep it, basically put these lines on the wrong side of those lots, but then said you cannot build seaward of these lines.
They went through to the U.S. Supreme Court, ultimately lost on a takings claim and had to allow the construction of those houses in those neighborhoods
Okay.
seaward of their jurisdictional lines that they knew it was erosional. They tried to stop the development back then.
Wow.
And it has come and gone with, I mean, as
Yeah.
projects happen, it gets built back out. But then we know it has always been erosional.
You don't hear towns talking about condemnation of houses because of that law, you have
Right.
to pay fair market value to that family. And it is too expensive
Yeah.
to buy that. So that's why you don't hear about it.
What is the fair market value though of a house? I don't want to be a
Before
cynic here.
erosion, fair market
So-
value
Okay.
before
Okay.
erosion
All right.
is what it's.
So what, if you go back to like in the, what's happened in North Carolina, because I hit the news of the houses falling in the ocean,
Mhm.
basically, at some point they get condemned,
Right,
then the value drops to the point that
sure.
And
We'll
they
write
can't
you a
insure
check.
them anymore.
you
so
can't
they-
insure it. So again, that's how they dealt with this same
Well, we are
similar.
very
Right.
close to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
2 of the homes in Beechwood East are no longer inhabited.
Really?
And the people
Oh,
are not
yeah.
putting any money into it because they don't know what's happening.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That breaks my heart. We got to figure this out.
Yeah, and I think we are leaning in a direction that's maybe supportable. Like where the beach is wide enough, we don't need to do anything. Where the beach is not wide enough, we need to do something. But we need to treat the south differently than the north.
So do we need to work with you to try and figure out if it's not 200, what scenario should we run? How do you want to?
Well, we
Work
need to
through this.
recommend to city council.
Do we
Right.
change
City
it for,
council
we have a
needs to
different number
approve,
for,
And then he gets his direction from city council and the administrator, not from us.
So if I go
So
back
we
to
need roll
the
up our sleeves and start
south end of the
doing the
island,
measurements on this.
Say it
if you
again.
go back to the south end, south end of the island,
Yes.
Breach Inlet side. So originally those properties, there's a 250-foot setback to the build line from the existing baseline at the time those were developed, if I remember right. I'm looking at
So the
you like-
Ocean Boulevard,
the Ocean Boulevard.
Yeah,
It
so-
was a 250 setback
well, so
from the
So
high tide.
250 is the prohibition on erosion control devices. So you measured in from the water 250 feet. From the other direction, a maximum building
Build line
line
of-
was created, and it's not a consistent amount as
And
the
in some
beach goes.
places it overlaps, some places they're separated.
Yeah, you have
It's-
a lot of lines on those properties, but there is a setback as to how far oceanward they
Okay.
could build, but that's not a state line, that's a city line. And that's a max build line.
And that was from Ocean 250. From the street 250 out was the build line, right?
No, it was, the one that was measured, the max build line was from Ocean and it's a different amount for different parts of
Oh,
that
okay.
subdivision. It's the erosion control that's 250 and that's from mean high water towards the houses. You can't build erosion
Yeah.
control devices.
I would like Stephen to show us right now with your measuring tape that you have on that chart around First and Second Avenue, what you were intending to do with the 380 from the measured from
Well,
the
it would be
section.
600 or 400 or not 380, right?
Oh, that's right.
What are we
Well, show us
using?
what
Yeah,
What are we
it's
using
600.
as our
600 and
minimum
400.
healthy?
Yeah, we have some of the profiles back there, and basically it would be building the dune at the BCM baseline and adding a minimum of 100 feet of dry sand in front of that.
Can you take your
Yeah,
ruler out
Let's
again
go back to
and
that.
show us?
Inlet.
Where are we here right now? Is this First or Second?
It's Second Avenue is here.
Okay.
Wait, where are
Um,
you?
This
Are,
is,
are you on a really old
yeah, this is
version?
a really old, I was just,
Could you use the current one? Because
Yeah.
it's hard to, I'm like, there's no construction down there right
yeah,
now.
I was, they were discussing kind of where things were built at, and I was showing
I
when
can
the,
send you the site if you need it.
for the baseline?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it right here.
You got it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just easier to
Yeah, and
look at current pictures.
I have the drawings. I can pull it up on the screen too.
Wow, impressive. You'd think he used to be in the planning commission.
One point that I have found confusing, and Wendy, you referenced this in an email.
Yeah.
Stevens surveying data has always referenced a baseline, but that is CSE's baseline.
Oh,
That is this
not a-
red
okay.
constant line across the entire, so that's their measuring line. So that was established 30 years ago.
2007, yeah.
Yeah, so 20 years ago, they established their measuring line, and in their reports, they reference a baseline. That is this red line. That is not the jurisdiction, the
Yeah.
BCM jurisdictional line.
Because
That
I
is
keep
key.
looking at it going, that is going to be a measurement in the ocean. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that, I saw that in your email. And,
Yeah. Why are we doing it that
It
way?
doesn't make sense to me.
It's a standard construction baseline that the distances here are measured in feet. So 0 and 20 plus 0, that's 2,000 feet to that point.
So your baseline's running through houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just an imaginary reference line that we compare year to year from it. It means nothing as opposed as where
I got
structures
you.
are, dunes are, anything
Right,
like that.
the
It's just
change,
so that we
yeah.
can compare multiple
But
surveys.
everything's referenced to that line. So
Everything's
Yeah.
referenced to
if
that.
you just move the line, you're just
Yeah.
gonna shift
Uh-huh.
the numbers to.
Right.
Yeah, so when we're like looking at our minimum healthy beach volume to the structure line, we take the distance from this line to the structure line and apply that so that we're measuring, or to the dune line or whatever it may be.
So is there a way to reference the DES baseline or like a
So-
point of reference that,
I mean, what we would have to
We
do would be
understand.
find the intersection of our profiles. So we have profiles at the south end, they're 400 feet, and then they're 500 feet is where we survey basically every 500 feet in this area. So we'll have a survey that comes right through this area. We would find the intersection of our survey line and that BCM line and just tell you what that distance is. We can show it on a graph, we can show it on our individual plots.
that would be helpful.
What's the black line?
The black line is where the dune would be.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
What?
that's a
Let's see.
good line.
That's a good line.
Look
line
at,
to measure.
yeah.
We like
Yeah.
So this dune was set at this dune at the direction of the city was set at the DCM baseline.
Right.
Until you get up to about 6th Avenue where the baseline runs further landward, then we tie into the existing escarpment.
Where are the monuments?
The BCM monuments.
Yeah.
They
Where
are,
them?
they used to be physical monuments in the ground that were located at some of the beach
Measurement.
access points. Now they are digital XYZ
I
coordinate
mean, actual little.
systems.
Yeah,
Is that
Or
something that we could
Washington
use or
Monument.
is that like around Ocean Boulevard and not going to help us with our?
We can use them, and we survey them for the state every year. They're spaced between 1,000 and 2,000 feet apart. So the data isn't high enough resolution to do a whole lot with,
Okay.
for engineering purposes. But we have, that data does exist.
I don't know how useful it is to know about a monument where we don't.
Well, that's why I was wondering, is the
It is.
monument going to be more helpful than that red line, but it doesn't sound like that
Oh,
is an option.
And again, we try to have a relatively straight line that lets you compare, as you plot these things and you're comparing one section of the beach to another, if you move that line in and out constantly, you don't know relative to one section or the other how the beach actually is.
That makes sense. I thought you were drinking too many margaritas when you measured Second Avenue.
So is this area the area where the upcoming project is supposed to put sand?
So the this color would be the dry sand fill, and this color would be the
Which
the
color?
slope.
I'm not fancy where.
This lighter color
Okay.
is dry sand beach.
Okay.
This color is
Mustard.
the slope.
The slope.
Yeah. So where the dry sand will start to slope down. to the
Okay.
beach.
So is that measured, putting the dune, because I know that it was talked at town council to put the dune at the baseline. Is that what these pictures are doing or?
That's what this is doing with the dune at the baseline, yes.
Okay.
In this drawings. The construction set of drawings leave us flexibility to make changes when we actually award the contract. So we can shift sand around within each reach. We can make some modifications to like a dune placement. If we go too crazy, the contractor will say they need a change order. But we leave it a little, note saying we may shift the position of the dune. We have notes in the documents that say we can shift any sand within the reach. So
So it makes me nervous that we're going to make on-the-fly decisions that maybe
Well,
the town council's not aware of. Like,
we-
how does that work?
Well, we do that because the Corps, up until these were built, the Corps was continuing to place sand out on the beach, and we didn't know exactly what that was going to look like.
Right.
And the dynamic nature, especially the east end, if construction doesn't start for some reason until October, we have to make changes to the template based off of the condition at the time.
Right.
We're not reducing quantity, we're just accounting for natural changes. So if we
Wouldn't you
see-
just redesign it then so that we could take a look at it and
I mean, this
understand
is
what's
the
happening?
most up to date that we have from our surveys. So
No, I mean, like, say October looks completely different and you have to,
yeah, so
you have to
the
adjust.
contractor and potentially us as well would do a before dredge survey where they get a survey at least or no more than 30 days before they start. And we would take that survey data, take the final awarded quantity and apply that plan to the final data.
so does the contractor engineer, who's making the decision where the sand goes?
We're making that decision.
We meaning
The
CSE?
city,
The city.
I mean, the CSE, the city, we're the agent for the city.
And what is the width right now in this design from the black line out into the ocean, the dry beach?
So at 14th Avenue down here, from the back of the dune, we're at about 150 feet from the baseline, and then we're almost at 500 feet, so about 350 total feet of dune and dry sand area. To the back.
What avenue?
That's at 14th, so that's down here around Second. As we move further up, it's similar.
It's not from this
the red
baseline.
line. That's
It's
the
from the
red
red
line.
The red line is just the zero on here. Okay, and it doesn't really mean a whole lot other than it's just where all this is put in space.
So I'm just trying to figure out where is this relative
Yes, to the map,
the
what we're looking at.
The
DES or BCM
The-
baseline?
back toe of the dune would tie into the setback line. That's what we were
Point it
instructed
out
to do.
here then, it's like,
The setback line is not shown on here because the contractors don't care about it.
So that's,
Uh,
this dune is in between the 20-foot setback line and the baseline, and this line should be the baseline then? Is
The,
that right?
the baseline, if the baseline and setback distance is 20 feet, then we would start right at the setback line, slope up to the dune, and the crest of the dune is probably 15 feet or so seaward of the BCM baseline. Because we have a distance of slope and then we have a 15-foot crest width. So we're in that ballpark.
So the red hump should be between, to your point, the baseline and the setback line.
It's hard to tell when you're basing it off of this red line, which we don't know where that is.
For the construction drawings, it doesn't make sense to add another line that will confuse the contractor. Y'all need to see the layout of the dune relative to the baseline. Did we already provided that?
I don't think we've ever had the BCM baseline and setback line on a dune
I
profile.
don't understand why that red line can't follow the curve of the island. I don't know, maybe I'm just, this is new to me, so I'm,
It was a monitoring reference line that if it followed the curve, it wouldn't change the data at all. Other than when you add turns in the line, then you have to make some quantitative adjustments to the data because you're accounting for, when it's a straight line, you got 200 feet. And when you're calculating volumes over that, it's easy to do with the averaged area method. If you have curves, then you have trapezoid or pie shapes that you have to assume, okay, where does the depth stop? And it complicates things. So we try to have straight-ish lines where we do have to have turns. We do, but limit it. If you have curves, your lines start to radiate all over the island. Sometimes they can cross if you're a convex shape, so it doesn't work out as well that way.
So you need AI. So
I mean-
how do we then, give town council and this committee comfort in what's drawn based on what we understand, which is the BCM lines? And you don't have to do it for every single avenue, obviously, but is there a way to just take a few and
I'm not
Show us
sure
where-
what you're asking or
So
what would give them
so
confidence.
What we talked about, we were just looking at Second Avenue, right? And you were verbally describing, well, this, 0 is this red line, and it's between the 20-foot setback line and the baseline. When it would be helpful for residents when they're looking at easements and that's understanding what your plan is, because I think they would like the plan, right? So it's just helpful communication to put it in terminology that people
would
understand.
yeah.
We've sent the city a draft of the easement documents that would show where those easements would lie, and that does should include the BCM lines in
Okay.
that. So
That
you
would
would
be
see
helpful.
where the work area is on those.
Those aren't out to residents yet, right?
No, they were the very first initial draft that we sent about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So that may be a useful document. I will say that we would recommend that owners try to give us as much flexibility in that as possible, because if we get hit by a storm in July that sets the dune back, 30 feet, you want us to be able to place sand there, especially as you get up like into the 6th Avenue area and north.
What is
Um,
this?
Oh, that's the east end of the island.
Okay, all
Hawkins area.
right. That's what, okay.
We're trying to account for all these uncertainties that may happen. So we want as much, flexibility to be able to do that if needed at the time. But
We also want success of easements, though.
Right.
I mean, we've probably got lessons from other towns that the more you ask for, the harder it is. So, we're in a short timeline and we want to make sure that we have success. So I'm sure y'all are talking about that.
Yes, and I guess I would say that I don't know that council's looking for direction on getting easements from this committee. Those are being compiled, they're being mailed out. We're having a public meeting to meet with the homeowners in that area. So I think that was your question initially, is
So I
how,
was just asking, is there a way that we can show it in terms that's familiar to us? Because we don't know where that red line is. Nobody knows where that red line is.
Well,
but I
Yeah.
don't know that
We need to.
What was the one that you were showing?
The
This
results
one.
based on it.
Would it help having basically this picture with just take the red line out, put the baseline in,
Yeah, that's,
to show people where that design?
yeah.
That'd be
I would,
super helpful.
I would recommend let us get
It's
the bids
confusing.
in
Okay.
and see what the prices are and the conditions, because, if the city wants to award additional sand there, where we apply that sand will impact the beach width there. And as soon as you show something that gets, kind of put into law, it's like, well, if I didn't get that, then why not us? But so once we get those bids in a couple of weeks, we can put together kind of a final recommended award, which would show the distribution of any additional fill. I'm pretty confident that we're going to get very favorable bid prices with this. We've been in contact with several of the dredgers that are very eager for this project. So I am hopeful that we will have some additional funds to award more than the base bid, substantially more. And we can kind of have that final plan that council we can sign off on.
So this is based on the minimum, right?
It's got both in it. So it's got the minimum and the maximum. It says the base bid is 400 at the south end. You can add an additional 400, or the city can elect to add up to an additional 400.
So would that just be adding, it won't change the dune, it would just add
It would add additional width,
width?
and we would tell them where.
Where.
It probably wouldn't be even distribution from north to south. It would be in select areas.
And right now
Could
with
you-
the 400, the width of the beach from the dune onwards to the ocean would be how wide?
It would be a new dune and then a width of, I want to say it was 100 and 150 feet minimum. Go back and look.
So we do have an 11 o'clock meeting.
Okay.
I have an ask. Can we wrap this up with maybe an ask?
Okay.
Could you put together something that shows very simple the calculations of what is your assumption on what is the excess or deficit based on the minimum healthy beach? What is your assumption of,
Using the minimum healthy beach at the baseline, the BCN baseline.
do it for both, I guess.
Okay.
Do two different cases of this. What your erosion rate assumption is that is applied for the 8 years, and how it was, what your rationale for it was. And then if there's any potential shoal attachment that's coming, how does that factor into the renourishment? And if there's any erosion that you expect to happen from the Army Corps, because I'm told that you need to take a look at the quality of sand that you got, because it's probably going to erode faster than something that would come from offshore. So what is the quality of sand? And then what's the assumption of the erosion rate of what we've got today from the Army Corps?
Okay, so I sent Doug another document, again, late yesterday afternoon, that I know he hasn't had a chance to look through, but it kind of goes through all those, less the adjustment in the minimum healthy beach. So we can pretty quickly give you what that delta would be. Again, it's just going to be a, when we're looking at the kind of project formulation, it's the deficit volume plus the advance fill plus any contingency.
What
So-
about the excess? Because I know, like, when I looked at the north end of the island, there's huge excesses in some places and then like major problems in
Right.
others.
So when we're summing the deficit volume, we're only looking at the areas that have a deficit. So we're not discounting that by making up for it with the excess.
So, but the excess everywhere, are you adding beach to the excess?
In a lot of areas that have, there's
So they're
only a
gonna
very
be-
few areas that have a deficit volume right now. I mean, there's still Beechwood, Ocean Club, and south of Second Avenue. But we are planning on adding advanced fill over a much wider area to account for anticipated losses.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out if you're at an excess, say you're at an excess of, I'm just going to use it in 100 feet of, if you're the dry sand thing that we like. If you have 100 feet of dry sand beach and your goal is to end up with 200, are you counting that 100 that they already have? Or are you just ignoring that and saying, well, the erosion rate's going to be whatever. I'm going to ignore that they already have 100 feet. Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, no, we would take the current condition into account. So if they have 100 in our standards too, then we would want to add another 100 and then any
And then
advanced fill
erosion.
on top of that.
Right. So I was just asking, did you take into account the excesses in the calculation of what you need?
We
Because it didn't look like it, but
we do not,
I can't.
I want to make sure we're speaking the same thing here. So where we have a deficit, and I'll show you the data table here. This is a pretty simple.
Doug, did I hear you say that the city
We
has
gotta
a
wrap
hot
up.
stop at 11?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm happy to continue this later if we need
So
to. but-
Stephen, you sent me something last night. Does that have all of this in it?
It's
that I
got
can-
most of everything that
Okay.
she just requested.
So why don't I forward what he sent me last night? Wendy, if you don't mind,
Yep.
respond in an email that we can work through and get, whatever we reasonably can from your request and provide that back.
I wonder whether we need an additional meeting, Doug, because we didn't finish what we wanted to discuss all today. Plus, the bids are coming in on the 18th or so. And I think this committee voiced an interest in having a look at the bids when the bids are properly analyzed by you.
So and on your agenda, it says the 16th. That is incorrect. Your actual meeting date is the 2nd. So that would be your next regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
afraid that is too late. Right, because by the 2nd, the city is already looking at it.
Well, and just
Council.
so we open them the 18th. They get presented just for informational purposes to the council on the 24th. They don't act on it though until their April meeting. So there is a month there where it will go to the Wild Dunes Community Association. You know, that they're paying a large portion of the bill. Our council has it. So no direction is taken by council until the end of April.
It seems like we are running out of time at every single one of these meetings.
Yeah.
I'm concerned to the point where I feel like it would be helpful to have a second set of eyes on it, and we're running out of time. So I That's
Yeah,
where I'm at.
again, I don't, and I think we talked about this the first meeting. I think that council, this project is well down a path before your first meeting. I know that council would be interested if there was, commentary or points of interest that you all wanted to provide to them. But to me, the project is well underway. The finances are what they are at this point. The bids
What,
will.
we can't raise more taxes or do some, what do you mean they are what they are?
Well, so I think that,
Plus you can take out debt. I mean, there's lots of things
Yeah.
that can be done.
I don't
yeah, there,
agree at all.
We're running out of time. I guess we talked about that we'd like it measured from the baseline, that we want to understand how many feet of healthy dry beach we have, and should we be looking at 150 feet and what those volumes would be. We don't have any of that information, so I feel like waiting a month is too long to.
So you would be available for a interim
Absolutely.
meeting?
I would, absolutely.
Yeah.
so I will also just say that you get the bids the 18th. Council meets the 24th. We then have a town hall meeting the 26th. We're then, so that week is really completely chock full. You then are into the next week when your regular meeting
Okay.
is held. So, I mean, we could maybe shuffle it a few days, but there's just
We could
not.
talk about finances next week or something,
Right, that's not going to
Um,
make or break anything.
and whatever, what else didn't we get? Oh, the monitoring report.
Yeah, and again, council is, I mean, they are talking about finances. They're talking about potentially raising
According to
revenues.
Dan, though, they haven't followed up on recommendations from the prior committee. They've
They-
done
they-
nothing.
They don't raise taxes lightly, I guess. It would be my,
Right.
um,
And
They
they
did a couple of things, but yeah, that was, we didn't get into that. I'd like to
Yeah,
get into this thing maybe the next meeting. but,
Yeah.
right.
Since
So
we run
maybe
out
we
of
should be
time.
talking about finances next week.
Should we consider making a motion to get a peer review going now and see, to recommend to town council to consider? Just to make sure that we've got our ducks in a row by all these deadlines that are coming quickly.
I'm sorry, what's the peer?
Like have another consultant take a look at it and just say, you guys are golden, or
I'm not sure,
Yeah.
Randy, that we know that consultant right now. We have,
Okay.
I
I mean,
think the facts on the
Chris-
table. There's discussions about how the facts should lay.
so we'll just focus on getting the information based on what we laid out as a group.
Yeah, I'm
As-
very concerned that our definition of what the target beach is deeply flawed. If we're talking about counting sand, that's,
Wait.
yeah.
Again,
I
it's
mean,
a
I'm-
community preference if you say that you want to, what line are you trying to hold? If you're trying to hold the existing dune line, then we can set it at that.
I would hold
I
the
think that-
existing
I
baseline.
can't fault Stephen for that,
And
right?
I agree. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I don't understand how someone would tell you to
Well-
do it, measure it from a property line.
It
That's
becomes
fine.
what, again,
Yeah.
what are you not willing to give up from a standpoint? Because there's a cost associated. So where the structures are, let's do whatever we can to protect the structure. If we have extra money, but right now we're struggling with, can we even afford to protect the structures?
Well, you
So
know,
that, it
actually,
becomes an economic,
Actually,
issue,
though,
but,
as someone who doesn't have a beachfront house, I care less about the structure. I want a beach I can walk on and
Mhm.
put my seat, my beach chair on.
but that's the
So-
argument. The beach will be there
Yeah.
where it's where you want the beach located.
Tourists aren't going to
Yeah.
come if
Yeah.
they're sitting
Is it
on somebody's
possible-
sandbag. So I'm worried
Right,
about
but-
the economy of the entire town. That's what I'm worried about.
We are continuously running out of
I know.
time.
Yeah, sorry.
The city wants to
Yeah.
leave.
Right.
Is there a chance that we can have another meeting on the 23rd? Just looking at my calendar, yeah, I will be available, and I think we have at least 2 hours worth of discussions to finish this agenda.
I'm pretty sure I'll be available.
On the 23rd, I'm available in the afternoon. Wait,
Doug, what does it do to the city?
I think we can do that. 23rd.
It seems
And-
like there's a preference by Wendy for the afternoon.
Yes, 'cause I have a job. I have a job during the morning. It's a real job
Is
where I
that
get
another
paid and have a
Thursday?
boss.
Is that another Thursday?
No,
No,
It's a
Monday.
Monday.
It's a Monday.
It's a
Oh, okay.
Monday.
No, that's fine. I'm sure I have Mondays off.
Am I the only one with a job here?
Is the,
Depends if you count unpaid jobs.
what would we be preparing to discuss at that meeting?
we would be finishing this agenda, which is
The monitoring report?
the monitoring report and the committee beach funding recommendations. Plus, we would be finalizing our recommendation to city council on what the minimum beach should be
Would you
at
be able to
various
have the data
points
by
of the
then?
island.
Should be able to have
That's not a
something
problem
next week.
timeline for you? Okay.
Okay.
We could also get a review from Stephen on the bids.
Yeah, we'd have the bids by that point.
So it would be 4 very valuable agenda points.
Yeah, we'd have
Stephen,
bids by the
are you, so
18th.
would you want Stephen here for the beach
It would be
monitoring?
ideal.
Do you know if you're available
I
then?
am.
What time, Wendy?
He is his own boss. He makes decisions on the spot.
I'm married. I gotta.
What time?
What time?
Tuesday.
Anytime after 1:30 works for me.
2
Does-
o'clock
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock work?
Mm-hmm.
works well.
I know our friend that's missing has a job.
Yeah, but he
So
seems
hopefully-
flexible. These lawyers.
Unless he's back from
I
where
tell
he's
him this
coming.
afternoon and then he makes sure his workday ends at 1:30.
All right, are we gonna try and block
Okay.
an hour, 2 hours? What are we asking
Oh,
for? do you think?
minimum 2 hours.
Minimum
I
2
think
hours.
if we want to review the bids,
Okay.
we may want to consider 3 hours,
I'm gonna block 3. Just-
2 to 5, so that you don't fly out again.
I'm not going anywhere. My rental's over.
Okay.
Sadly, my monthly rentals.
Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Off record 11:06.